But it was an opportunity. I looked at opportunities and say, how can I strategize this? That now it goes back to benefiting where I'm making more money doing less work. I've always used that as a goal.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
All righty, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good, Ken. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Very much appreciate your time. Can you introduce yourself to the audience, just who you are and where you're from and a little bit of background?
Sure. My name is Tim Kerin, and I'm currently residing in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And that I was originally from Washington, D.C. area for 40 plus years, and we relocated to Florida about 4 years ago.
Okay. And your family growing up was in the retail business, correct?
Yeah, we were based in, I don't know if you've remember Montgomery Wards. In that,
Wards.
Now you're a lot younger than me, so you, in that. So,
okay.
But it was a retail chain, Montgomery Wards, and my dad was he was in the retail of Montgomery Wards. My brother was in Montgomery Wards. I started out in Montgomery Wards in commission sales while I was going to college, and then went in their management program. And in fact, that's where I met my wife. Was at Montgomery Wards. And so Branch was a family of retail. And from that standpoint, I just said, you're working 6 days a week around the holidays, and everybody else is home on the weekends, and you're working and that. And I just said, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else where I can make more money and spend more quality time with family. And so I didn't realize being an entrepreneur, it's 80-hour work weeks though, but it's for yourself. It's for yourself.
So out of the fire and into the frying pan, which we often do, which is not, I mean, I enjoy that kind of stuff. But so you decided to get out of retail and went into, did you start with residential cleaning?
Yes, we started it was interesting. We connected with a concierge company because we lived in Maryland. So we were about 40 minutes from the Washington, D.C. area. And so we connected with a concierge company that was on Pennsylvania Avenue, and that's where it was called Market Square, and a lot of senators and Congress people live there. So we put on a little cocktail party for a lot of the people there, and they had a rooftop pool, and a lot of people hired us as their maid service. So we would drive down. I had a big old Lincoln Town Car. And we would park next to it was right next to the FBI building. So we parked next to the FBI building, pull out our vacuum and bucket and walk a block and a half. And we were cleaning senators and Congress people for about a year or so. And that, so it was residential first. It was just her and me.
Right.
And then we saw the opportunity to do commercial, and we branched into that as the second step.
Okay. I think this is super important for the audience to understand how you executed on that particular business. You were in a high income area, right?
Yeah.
You were doing a service that is commodity based, there's a lot of cleaning crews, especially that post COVID and the great resignation, cleaning service isn't as much of a commodity, right? Getting people to work is a little harder today than it used to be. But back then it was absolutely would be considered a commodity, cleaning people's homes. But you did a couple things that I think are really, really cool. One is you really narrowed down into who you were selling to, right? Congressmen, senators, people high in government. So they have a different expectation of the kind of person that they're going to allow into their domain, right?
Yes.
And you were able to accomplish that. And then you didn't do an ad in the paper or anything like that. You went to them and threw a party and invited them. So today that would be kind of selling from the stage kind of thought process behind that sales and marketing process. Was that so one big party and the business is off to the races, or was it a little clunky to get started, still had the full-time job and you're cleaning houses on yourself, or did you start off with staff right out of the gate?
No, I was still working full time too, and so on my days off, or I had a couple half days, I would go and help her clean, and then when we picked up enough business, I left, and we just took the big leap, and just said we're going to just commit to this because we had enough clients by then, And so when you're in the same building, we strategically looked at it, especially with DC traffic.
Right.
So we strategically said, okay, we're in one building, we're doing 4 or 5 units a day, and then we finished in time to get home. We had 2 kids in elementary school, and they were off by 3 o'clock, so we were home in time to get them. So we cleaned, went to lunch at the wharf, had fresh fish sandwiches at the wharf in DC. I told my wife was always doing the bathrooms, and I said, look, if you clean quicker, I'll take you to the wharf for a sandwich and that. So we were racing. So it was fun. It was just her and me. That's how we started it. It was just her and me before we branched into the commercial side.
I love it. And I think it's so important for people that are considering to go into business, right? I own a couple businesses, and sometimes I still get called into them, right? Some of them I enjoy doing, so I work a shift a week, like 1 or 2 hours a week, just so that I can go do that and stay involved. But it's really important that if you're going to own a business, especially a service business, especially during the Great Resignation post-COVID, there's going to be times, especially in the beginning, that you're going to have to be the one doing the labor, right? That is, I have a hard time understanding anybody that wants to bootstrap or even go out and get venture capital money that thinks that they're just going to hire staff and manage the people. They're going to have to get in the trenches. At least that's always been my the trap that I fall into, right? I always end up working somewhat in the business, but you really got to stay working on the business instead of in it, or you just got a glorified job that you're the boss and the employee.
That's hard as an entrepreneur. I mean, the different stages we're in, you get caught up. You start working in the business, and then you lose things opportunities in that because you're just physically there. And so that's when we started looking at growing the business, and we branched into commercial. At that point, then you're hiring employees, and then you start backing away from the physical aspect of the business, and then you're running the business.
Right. So then you jump from residential to commercial, very logical migration, right? Just the path to they pay better, there's larger square footage. Do you abandon the first business to go to the second business, or do you figure out how to operationalize it and then start the commercial side?
We carried it over for a little bit, and then we sort of dropped it because one of the things I learned in business is trying to work smarter and trying to look at where your time is and how much money you're making. And so there was a lot of time in residential. It was really detailed, where commercial is all based on square footage and it's a cheaper rate, but the volume's bigger. And obviously the dollar amount's bigger, but there's a lot more responsibility. Now you're bringing on employees, it's bigger areas and that. So we sort of released the residential side and then just concentrated on the commercial side.
Yeah. So I have personally a ton of bad habits, and one of those bad habits is romanticizing with my past, right? And for me to stop doing a service that I have customers that are paying for, it's wildly difficult. Like, it's one of the most challenging. I put it up there with quitting smoking, right? As hard as it is to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do this business anymore, because I feel like, one, I'm leaving money on the table. Two, I feel like I had an obligation to that person to do that product or service. How do you deal with that separation when you say, hey, you know what? We've had a blast. I know that you appreciate, because at that point your customers really appreciate what you've been doing for them, right? It's a hard breakup, and it's not a breakup because they did anything bad or you did anything bad. It's that you're growing and you've got to leave that old business behind. How do you deal with that?
Well, when we transitioned, not to be political here, but there was midterm elections. So at one point, so it was election time. So a lot of the senators and Congress people lost their seats in that. So it was an easy transition for us with some of that, but some of it was some moved, some retired, some lost their seats. So we sort of saw the transition. There was a few stragglers we kept, but it wasn't a full-time effort to build. We sort of let it die down a little bit. So I understand what you're saying. You built a business, you're passionate about it, and all of a sudden now, you just don't go cold turkey and cut it. We gradually let it go down a little bit.
So what you saw was the churn coming with the elections and the tides turning. That's really cool because you have a customer base that kind of rotates every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like college campus kind of businesses, right? You've got a new set of freshmen coming in every year and a set of seniors that you're losing every year. So, okay, I understand that. That's neat. So then you stopped trying to build that business and started building a new business and let that business churn away.
Yeah, correct.
And at some point it becomes a task to say, hey, you know what? We're just not going to do this anymore. I'm sorry. When I do that, I try to give like a 3 or 6 month notice saying, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. I can make better money elsewhere, but I'm going to continue doing this for you for 3 or 6 months at a lower profit just so that you can find somebody else.
Yeah.
When I've done that, I find we end up doing some other kind of business together later.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to feed in on that. It's big on relationships, and you build a relationship with these people. You don't want to lose those relationships because, it can come back to help you down the road.
Yeah. The most expensive thing that I've ever had to do is repair bridges that I've burnt. Right?
Yeah,
they're not only financially expensive, they're emotionally expensive.
Exactly.
Too. Like getting on your hands and knees and saying, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong to do that, and can we get this relationship going back again?
Yep.
The other thing that I think is really unique and really important for business owners or somebody thinking about opening a business that you did there was that you really concentrated in a geographical location for a service-based business. When you have a service-based business, your largest expense is payroll, correct?
Yeah, payroll and then supplies. Yep.
Payroll and supplies. If you're on the other side, your payroll and rent maybe would be the other one, or payroll and power for me. Actually, it's power then payroll for me. But the largest loss that a company has on service is time between jobs.
Yes.
Right? Leaving this job and going to the next one, tearing down, cleaning up, like there's no money being made there, transitioning from one place to the next. So if you can shorten that gap as much as possible, then you can not only give discounts, but you increase your revenue or your margins because you're not paying that person to drive an hour to the next location. So I think that's all brilliant. Now you're on to commercial, right? In this timeline, you're cranking with commercial. Is the commercial cleaning still in place?
Yeah, that to date is. What we started out in the beginning, we didn't know too much about the commercial. It was a big thing to jump into. You're getting a check for a couple $100 or so to clean a condo, and now it's thousands of dollars, and payroll, supplies, taxes, insurance deal. So what we ended up doing in the very beginning, we bought a commercial cleaning franchise. This is back in the late 80s, and when commercial cleaning and franchising was popular. So we learned from the commercial cleaning franchise, and in our agreement, we were allowed to go out and get our own business under the franchise as long as it wasn't competing with them. So what I did from that perspective is I learned from them, and then I went out and started getting my own contracts in that. So
okay. So you had a franchise, just so I understand this, your franchise would say, hey, if the leads that come through the franchise, they get a commission on, or they get their 10%, whatever it is. But if you can drum up business on your own, you can do that as well.
Yeah, as long as I wasn't competing against them in a bid, in that. So.
Okay. So as long as they hadn't already quoted that business, you were free to take it. Well, that's a very liberal franchise agreement.
Yeah, it was back then, and it was interesting because as we grew, I started to distance myself more from them, and then we ended up being one of their better franchises on some of their large accounts, and then they asked me to help them out. Then I turned the tide on them. Then I became the expert in the cleaning industry. They weren't. And
right.
So they had some accounts they were about to lose. So I went and negotiated with them, and I said, look, I'll help you for a year, and then it goes under my name, and then I'll pay you half the commission. You're going to lose it anyway. So
right.
you might as well turn it back over to me completely in my company, and I'll pay you a percentage. So I started to turn the tide a little bit on it, and then we sort of got out of the franchise business, and then it was just solely us.
Yeah, I've done that before with clients, where a client of mine had a client that they couldn't support anymore, right? And they would come to me for help, and it was like, okay, well, let's just take them over, and we'll pay you the commissions on this for some period of time. So I think the important thing for the audience to think about there is that there's always a place for negotiations, and always And it's just stopping, thinking about it, and asking, right? But was that just abundantly obvious to you, or what kind of tactics do you use to sit back and come up with strategies like that to even present them?
I developed one thing as an entrepreneur over the years and to this day. I always look at opportunities, and it's creating a habit. It's really creating a habit in that.
Right.
So when you're out in the business world, you say, okay, here's an opportunity. Now let's strategically and professionally figure out how to do this. And
right.
So I noticed that I noticed the franchisee was losing contracts in that, and I knew they didn't have the right people in place. I learned quickly how to run the business and how to make it profitable, even paying them their royalties. And that, right. So I was big on building relationships with the clients. And right. So it ended up turning around that the franchisor just said, look, you're doing this better than 90% of our people. So we might as well just give you the contracts and we'll just sit back and make a little bit less percentage in that. So,
right.
But it was an opportunity. I looked at opportunities and say, how can I strategize this? That now it goes back to benefiting where I'm making more money doing less work. I've always used that as a goal.
Absolutely. I think it's very, very important. Now, on the flip side of that, opportunities, I tell people all the time that they say, what is your job? I'm like, well, my job is to really look for opportunities and execute on the ones that I think will make us the most money. And unfortunately, I try to execute on a lot that I just think will make me happy more than money, which I'll support that all day long too. And today you've got 4 companies that you're actively operating. Is that correct?
Yes.
And right now specifically, right, we're mid 2022, 2 years post-pandemic, or post the lockdown from the pandemic at least. And right now in my life, and I'm 47 years old, I've never seen more opportunity available to me in my lifetime, right? And I got to live through the dot-com bubble and the housing crisis in 2008, right? And all those were opportunities, cryptocurrency, all this stuff. And I'm an excitable guy, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. How do you not execute or try to execute on more stuff whenever you get, because it's a bug that we have that we want to just run, and sometimes we can find ourselves running in the wrong direction because we got excited about a project. How do you? I'm making an assumption here that you've probably, you're running 4 businesses today, but you've probably started down the path on way more than 4.
Oh yeah. Well,
right.
To answer that, Ken, it's pretty easy. I'm coming up on 40 years of marriage in 3 days.
Congratulations.
And I keep getting threatened that she'll divorce me if I open up another business. Because okay. She's been, to be fair, we run the businesses together. I do all the front and she does all the back half. And
right.
So that's how we started. We've always been doing that for 40, for this long. And so when we're looking at it, I'm the dreamer. She's she pulls me back. And so I'm looking at these opportunities to say, hey, we could do this. And there was one time when we had offices in our house. We work out of our home for cost-effective reasons. And I went in her office and I said, I got this great idea. And I started running my mouth and explaining. I was so excited. I went back to my office. She came back in, threw the checkbook on the desk and said, you figure it out. Because it's reality. The reality is that, so sometimes these opportunities come, but you've got to really rein yourself in and start looking at all the different, now we learn in business. You learn as you grow.
Right.
You got to look at all the avenues. Is this the right opportunity? Is it the right time? Do you have the money to do it? Where's the startup? Where are you going to get your staff? Where's your marketing? And all these things start, and it brings you back down to earth a little bit.
Yes. It also brings you back down to earth as soon as you start, right?
Yeah.
If you just say, hey, I'm going to go and see what happens, I'm a huge fan of that, starting and going. Taste it and fail fast is what I try to do, right? Okay, so my wife's my partner in a lot of businesses as well. And it's, and we're probably pretty similar. I've got all these ideas every single day, kicking them out. So I just try to give them away. I'm like, hey, if anybody wants this opportunity, take it, please, because I would love to see this happen, but I don't have the time or energy to do it unless I gave up sleep, I guess. So I try to give my ideas away to people, and hopefully somebody takes them and runs with them. But okay, so now you guys, commercial cleaning. How many square feet were you cleaning?
We were at one point, we had over 135 employees when we were at our peak, and we were cleaning close to over 4 million square feet every single night.
Wow.
And that, so it was a lot of area, a lot of variety. Yeah. We had biotechs, government buildings, private sector buildings. We were a vendor. We picked up a relationship with the Washington Commanders now, and that formerly the Washington Redskins. And we cleaned their practice facility for 8 years. Then we did work at FedEx Field for another 6 years. And that, so
those are pretty big contracts, I assume.
Yeah, so we had some decent side. We cleaned Israeli embassy for a couple of years, National Cancer Institute, NIH, did some work there. So, some prominent, name reckoning contracts that we had as we grew. But when we were growing this business in this much square foot, again, opportunity came open, and it was a fight with my wife, but I won this one but it paid off. And that we decided, I said, if I'm in the same building mopping the floor, I might as well be in the same building painting the walls. It's the same customer, in that. So we came up with to do commercial construction. So we picked up some opportunities to do commercial construction. So we had a decent size, a multi-million-dollar construction business too, while we started building the cleaning business. So
but now you're a big pivot. So the cleaning is construction still running as well?
A little bit of it.
A little bit? Mm-hmm. Cleaning still going.
Yeah.
But now you moved to Costa Rica, and you tell us a little bit about the move to Costa Rica, why Costa Rica, and what you were doing there.
Well, what we were doing with Costa Rica is back in 2014, we visited Costa Rica with some friends. And I fell in love with the country. Thought it was, it's not that far. It's a 5-hour trip. It was 5 hours from Baltimore airport at that time. And just beautiful country. It's different than the Caribbean. A lot of people go to the Caribbean and that, but this is a little bit different. It's more tropical green. And the people are very friendly. And I brought my family back. We stayed at a resort the first time. Then I brought my family back and said, let's rent a villa. Let's see what it's like. And so we rented a villa, but the interesting part was we would call up and they would say to us, okay, here's the cost of the villa. We'll put a deposit on a credit card and bring the rest down in cash. And you're going to a third world country with a couple $1,000s in cash to pay for your rental. They give you the keys and they say, we'll see you in a week. And again, the opportunity light went off. I'm saying people are spending hard-earned money to go on vacation, and the management companies running these villas are just giving you a dwelling.
Right.
And that they're not doing anything more. So I'm a big component of networking, and I saw this development being built. And I went to talk to the developer. He was originally from Washington, D.C. He was an orthodontist. Okay. And he decided to move to Costa Rica this was about now 22 years ago, when everything was pretty new there in this area. He bought a strip of a mountain for $800,000, developed it, and built 80 villas on there, leveled lots for 80 villas. And so he had a villa that was 1/4 built. Now with our construction background, we made a deal with him and said, could we finish this based on time and material? Because he was, again, an opportunity came up. He was a little bit short on cash flow. So we finished it, and we turned it into a rental property, a rental income. And so we started to build it more. Again, looking at the opportunity we saw where the management companies down there were just giving you keys and saying, here's your dwelling, you're on your own. So
taking cash.
Yes, and taking cash on top of it. And so we decided to make a luxury villa. We currently have a full-time manager. We have full-time housekeeping. We have private driving. We have a full-time chef, and we offer all tour packages, so we could be all-inclusive if we wanted to.
Okay.
And that.
So do you have all 80 villas now, or just one of the 80 villas?
This is just one. If I had 80, that'd be too much. So we built this villa, and then the market what the real estate market was very similar to what's going on here. And there was an opportunity this past fall to sell the villa. And so it was a great opportunity. We were going to make a decent amount of profit on it.
Right.
So we sold the villa this past February. We had it for 5.5 years. And we decided, again, looking at another opportunity, we learned a lot. We love this business. It's a lot different. Cleaning, it's blue collar, it's hardcore. This type of business is you're creating vacations and memories for people. So we decided to reinvest the money that we got, and we're building another villa twice the size. It'll sleep 18 guests. It's on top of a mountain. And the top deck can have a wedding destination up to 50 guests. And we're just breaking ground this month. It's going to be ready in June of 2023.
Okay.
But again, it was an opportunity to do something fun and different.
Right. And where's this new villa being built?
It's being built and it's called Playa Hermosa. It's Costa area, and that we oversee the Pacific Ocean, and that's we're right on the coast. And it's we're really excited about it, in that it's going to be a fun project to do. And we already have 8 weeks booked already. We haven't even broken ground yet. And we have a tentative destination wedding book for September 2023 already.
There you go.
And so
and that's another very important business tactic that people. It's a hard one for me to even do, right? Is pre-selling stuff, right? Because I have this concept in my head is I can't sell it until I have it, right? And I know what it's going to be like, and people can touch it and feel it. How do you get in the mindset of pre-selling something before it exists? Because
we had the experience in it, and I think we're saying a little bit of a prayer, building a foreign country, as a little bit, but we have the experience with it now. And so once you have experience in things, just like we said in the beginning, when you physically are cleaning yourself, you build that confidence level. So what you said earlier about physically doing the work in the beginning when you're starting a business, we did this. We've already done this once. We have a confidence level. We already have the staff.
Right.
In that we're continuing to pay our staff while we're being built. So we're just ready to open the doors. We've learned so much about customs and shipping and all these other nightmares and things we've done in the past.
Yes, it is.
So we're ready. We're ready. So it's a confidence level because you've built your experience.
Right. That is amazing. Congratulations on the exit and then the new build and just not stopping. Still got the cleaning business going, so there's still revenue coming in for you guys while you're building this. Is this the dream now, or is there more to come after this next development that you do?
It's funny you said the dream, because our first home was called Dare to Dream. And this is called Essence of Dreams, which this is it. We're at top of the mountain. Again, I was threatened with the divorce if I do anything more after this. This is it. This is going to be it for us as far as projects. And that I think this is going to be something we're going to really enjoy, build, rent out, and use it part-time, and then sort of transition and retire a little bit more in Costa Rica. Right.
Let us just talk a little bit about the economics, and I think I have some ideas of how you finance this. But for the person out there that's thinking, hey, they want to start, building something or, do their first project, maybe they're working for a construction company today and they've got a lot of experience, but they don't have any experience on the finance side, right? Are you funding this all out of pocket, or are you using the bank's resources as well?
For the villa in Costa Rica?
Yes.
We took everything we sold, and it's being reinvested down there.
So 100% out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
So you're going to have no debt on this new location.
Yeah. And that, again, this is something we've learned being in business, that as an entrepreneur, it is so hard. That's the biggest challenge, besides staffing currently, is cash flow. And that.
Cash flow is king.
Yeah.
It's more important than everything else. Cash flow, because even windfalls of cash that you don't expect get sucked away really quickly, right? The operational every single month, these are my bills, I've got this much cash flow, this is my extra, or hopefully not a deficit.
Yeah. And we learned many hard lessons. I mean, when we first bought the franchise, to backtrack a little bit, the commercial cleaning franchise, they didn't teach you how to run a business. And then back then, you didn't have the internet. We had to go to the county library, and I would find business books, and it was how to type, and things like that. There wasn't many business books, even in the county library, to go find. And when we started our business, not coming from an entrepreneurial family, it was difficult. There was one point that we didn't have enough money to make payroll. And we were sitting around the kitchen table one night, and my wife's name is Tracy, and she took off her engagement ring and she said, sell it. And I was like, I was heartbroken because, it was my idea originally to start this. And this was a ring I gave her out of love, not to make payroll.
Right.
And so when we learn those types of things, you don't forget. And so as you go through life, sure, we've had a lot more ups and downs, experiences in business, and people stiffing us and things like that. And but we said we wanted to work smarter on this. So we want to build this debt free.
Absolutely. That's huge. Now, and when you build something like that debt free, you can always go to the bank and take some cash out if you need to. And if you're doing that kind of any kind of build and you work with the bank, there's construction loans that you don't actually start making the payments until the project is completed. But once that project's completed, you got to start making payments. So you got to make sure that you've got people in those bookings, and that's where your cash flow really starts to come in. Did you get the ring back?
Yes. No, we did. Here's what the deal I did with her, and she's now it's 40th, so she's reminding me about this. I made a deal with her that every 10 years I would give her an upgrade. So we had 30 years, so she has a 3 carat now. So now I'm trying to barter with her. I'm saying, look, the 4 carat is 40 years, but can I put some of that money into the new villa we're building instead? So we're negotiating. I may need your help with that, Ken. So.
But even on the diamond, you get to trade it in, right? I know my wife's diamonds, I get to I get equal value on the upgrade.
Yes.
On those things. Lucky for me, my wife, she runs one of our gyms, so she does not wear jewelry at all. So at least for now, I'm off the chain for any jewelry for her. But I got to keep her in her yoga pants for sure. She burns.
Well, block her on this podcast so she doesn't hear this one. Okay.
I think she hears me enough at home, but she does not even listen to me on YouTube. So wonderful, Tim. If someone wanted to work with you or learn more about your villa that's coming up, how would they learn more, or how would somebody reach out and get in contact with you?
People could email me currently, and we're working on our new website currently. Now, again, we're just ready to break ground, and my email is tim@Costa Rica Casa Dare To Dream.com. I know it's a little bit long, but it's tim@Costa Rica Casa Dare To Dream.com. That's the old villa, but that's our email still for what we have.
All right, we'll throw that along the bottom so people can just click it if they want to email you, learn more about the new villa. Do you have drawings and stuff that you can show people now for the new villa?
Yeah, we have rendering and things like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. All righty, so let's go back to the times where it was tough, right? And you sold your wife's wedding ring. That happened, right? You feel horrible. You feel like you got yourself into this mess. Why didn't you just close the company down and walk away and just go back and get a regular job, go back to retail? We sort of, the way we grew up and the way we looked at each other with business, we said, look, we're in it together. We're going to make this happen. And it's about, as much as you look at entrepreneurs and opportunities, another key component is your family support. You need that family support because of the amount of hours, the amount of risk, the amount of things going on in your life. You eat, drink, and sleep entrepreneurship. And so we said we knew we can get through this. And we just said we've got. Even though you didn't know, knew.
No, we didn't know. We said we'll figure it out. But we are the type of people that we don't want to point fingers and blame somebody else. You could have pointed fingers and blamed anybody, blame the franchisee or any franchisor or anybody. But we looked at ourselves and said, look, we made this decision to do this, and we're going to make the decision to get out of it. And that's what we did.
Yeah. I talk to people all the time, business owners, entrepreneurs that, get in that position and figure out how to make it through, and a lot that get in that position and shut their business down. I'm like, I'm just going to go back to working another job. And it's a hard decision on both sides of the fence, right? I don't know how many times I've forfeited a paycheck to keep the company going. But it's been a lot. It's been a while since I've had to do that, especially in the beginning. I don't think when we started the company that I run now, I don't think I even pulled a paycheck for the first 4 months, right?
Yeah.
It was strictly off of a severance from my previous job that I lived off of. So it's important to know, everybody thinks they see the other side of the fence where when you are successful and you have a little bit of extra stuff in your life, that's what they're seeing, and they don't necessarily know about the days that you had to tell your wife, hey, we have to sell a car, or we have to sell a ring, or we're just not going to get paid this week, and the house payment's going to get a little bit behind on us. They don't see that side of it, and there's just something in an entrepreneur that says that's going to be okay, we'll figure this out. And I think that's the essence of being an entrepreneur, is understanding that, learning from that, and then continuing to move forward. It's very, very important.
Yeah, there was a couple points during the business times. Again, this is when we had the multiple businesses, that we would lose contracts, and again, not thinking the right way of saving. Again, that's another thing, is as much money as you're making in, I could stress to entrepreneurs, is pull 10% back, always for a rainy day. Sometimes you get that ego build in, and you say, oh, we're just going to keep moving. Right. But there was times where we almost had to file bankruptcy a couple times, twice, because the amount of business we lost, and we didn't go on vacation for a couple of years, and we had 2 kids at that point,
right.
And we just said we just couldn't do it. We was working straight through.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story that me and my CFO, when we were really, really, really tight on cash, right? We were upside down, but really, really bad. And, I became the president of the company. I'm like, okay, every single day, no matter what, we're going to move 1% of our income that day, whatever we brought in, doesn't matter. If it's $100, if it's $10,000, 1% of it's going to go into a savings account every single day. And my CFO goes, you can't do that. And I'm like, yes, I can. He says, no, you can't. You need that money to pay the bills. And when we're still upside down, you're not going to ever be able to do that. I'm like, no, but we're going to start practicing it today. And if I had to transfer 1% out and then transfer it right back out, I'll do it. But if we don't get in the habit of putting that money away, we'll never, ever do it. And today, I look at him today and I kind of smirk. And, this was 5 years ago. And I'm like, I thought I'd never be able to do this. And he's like, well, you figured it out, right? So I do get a little bit of time to gloat when I'm like, hey, you can do it. And building those habits, you said building the habits on the networking, building habits on saving, building all of those healthy habits, I think are wildly important. Tell us a little bit about your habit on, how did you form a habit of networking, and what does that look like?
Networking, I really, again, coming from a retail background where you just didn't do much of that at all. And that I'm a big component of building relationships. I started to see where you need relationships to do really anything. It's not, and sometimes people just focus on saying networking is in your sales. I'm looking for an end user to buy my product, and that's right. Wrong. That's 100%. You need to build a network, strategic partners, friends, people, business associates, anything and everything, because that's how you build a business. And that everybody's passionate about what they do. And they're running out there. You see it all on LinkedIn all the time. They're pushing products and services all over the place, but it's about relationships. So I was in a networking organization back in Washington D.C. for many years, and we were an aggressive group, and we were meeting every week, and we were very strict on attendance, and we ended up building strategic partners. So what we did there is since I was in the commercial building sector, anybody that was going into a commercial building, we were out finding. We were going through the yellow pages again, Google, right. And that. But we were going through any sources we can get. If it was somebody that was watering plants in a lobby, putting down mats in a lobby, water cooler, office supply person, office mover, and that, anybody that was window washer, landscaper, Anybody that was physically in a building was in our group. And so we're all going after the same end user. We're all going after facility people or business property owners that own the buildings. So we had a goal. Our goal was whatever appointment we went on, we would not leave that appointment unless we had a referral for somebody in our group, no matter if we closed the job or not.
Right.
No matter if we closed the job or not, our goal was to bring a referral from that meeting. And we learned what to look for, what to listen for. We learned how to introduce people. We learned what makes you different. All these strategies. And from that group, I generated over 29 million in revenue, all through network. Never hired a single salesperson. And it was all based on these relationships with this group.
Right.
And so I became a big component. The Washington Redskin introduction was made through networking. My Boeing referral was made through networking.
Right.
All my big contacts and contracts were made through networking. It wasn't just because I wasn't anything special. I mean, commercial cleaning in a big metropolitan area like that is a dime a dozen. And that, so
yes.
I was introduced because people had relationships with these people, and that's how I built the business.
And today, I think a lot of people would look at networking today and put it to the side and say, oh, I've got Amazon, I've got Google, I've got all the Facebook, all these different resources. But I think today it's never been more important to build that network and build those relationships, because although, you know, the Amazons of the world and the Microsofts of the world, Walmart of the world, people will buy from those places because it's cheap and convenient. But if you can provide an equal service, doesn't have to be a better price. If they know you and trust you, they will buy from you over those big mega stores, right? It's a better, I think people recognize that that's a better economic choice for their own communities and everything else than to be giving their money to these giant mega stores. But there's not a whole lot of competition against these giant mega stores. So yeah, they win the business. But I think today, as we're losing this personal touch, there's huge opportunities to have concierge services and concierge products and high-end products for customers that are looking for something different than the click of the button and it shows up in your mailbox the next day, or sometimes, you know, an hour later. Price and convenience is huge. It's hard to compete against those. So the only thing you have after that is you, yeah, right? And you're probably not going to beat them on price and service. Right, so you got to beat them some other way. And networking
the relationships is such a key. It's such a key. And like you mentioned, is that things have changed and opened up since post-COVID. And I mean, before COVID, how many times have people really utilized podcasts and Zoom chats and things like that now?
Right.
And now it's becoming more of a way of doing business. And this is all about building relationships. When you're getting on a screen, you're not physically there to read body language or talk to somebody, but you can build a relationship through a podcast or through Zoom chats or, you know, even phone calls today and things. Too many people going to the texting and just an email, and that, you know, it's not the same. It's not the same.
I get these emails every single day, and I get thousands of emails every day. And if you're out there doing this, stop, please. You know, can we book a meeting to talk about my services so I can tell you about my services, or so I can tell you about my product? It's never going to work. It might work at some scale, but I mean, I think it's just lazy approach to a cold outreach. But it's me. I delete them almost instantly as soon as I see them.
Of course. Yep.
Like I don't know of anything that I bought from one of those emails of, hey, can I book a calendar on you? And the cheesy stuff where they're like trying to be sneaky and they like send you the calendar invite to just automatically click and it's on your calendar. I don't like those either. But you know, meaningful relationships is, you know, post-COVID, going in the future, I think the only way you're going to win business.
Yeah. Yeah.
In reality.
You're right. It's getting tougher to do business. And so I think relationships is a key. And one thing I always train people, I say, is that you want to do business with people you like and trust. And I said, and what I want to introduce you to my best customer or my mother. and I can only do that if I have that relationship with you. If I understand what makes you different, why unique, do you follow up? I mean, today, Ken, you look at how many people don't return emails within a timely manner. And that's a key component. I look at that as a professional networker. If I send an email out and I don't get a response within 24 hours, why would I introduce you to my best customer? You're not going to respond to them if they email you. Then I look back.
Right. So you think 24 hours is a reasonable amount of time to respond to an email?
I think if you want business today, because you're not there at your convenience, you're there at the customer's convenience.
Right.
And the customer has demands. And again, I learned that from my past customers. The Washington Commanders, formerly Washington Redskins. I mean, I would get a phone call. We were one of 3 cleaning companies for them. And I would get a phone call for them and saying, Mr. Snyder, the owner, wants you out at FedEx Field to look at this. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute, I'm in Virginia at a meeting. They said, okay, you know what? You're not interested in our business anymore. It was just like that. It's just, you don't say that to those type of people at $1 billion sports franchise. And that you go, you just get somebody there or you go. And it's things like that you learn habits. Again, it's another habit. You learn that you can't come up with excuses, and it's the
no
time,
excuse.
Right. It's what the customer. It's the demand of the customer. If the customer is looking for a quick response, you got to give them a quick response.
Right. So, and I'll tell you that I fail on that occasionally. Stuff gets out of hand. I have huge anxiety around my email. I get thousands a day, and I actually about 6 months ago, as recent as 6 months ago, I realized that most people today were never taught how to manage their inbox. So I'm not going to go over it in this episode, but I'm going to link to a small video that I have at the bottom that is my tactics or my strategy for managing my inbox, right? And it's very, very simple, but I get thousands of emails a day, and it's a process that I use. It's super simple to make sure that I'm keeping up with emails and replying to people in a timely manner. Sometimes it's just hey, I got your email. I understand you need a proposal. I'm out of town. Can I get you the proposal next week? It can be that simple, right? But the response has to be there. When I was younger, I had such anxiety, I would be checking email nonstop. If I got an email from any of my shareholders, any of my top clients, man, it would be minutes before they got a response. And it was nonstop where I had, I'd have the computer volume up really high on my emails. This is before I had, thousands in my inbox a day. But, so I can't respond like that still today, but I could at that time. And I think it's wildly important. And I want a lot of business because I was there really, really quickly.
Yeah, it's a habit. And, I may not be as popular as you. I don't get thousands of emails, Ken, but
most of them are junk.
Okay.
Most of them are nothing.
Okay. But you're looking at things in your response time because they emailed you because there's a need. Yes. There's a need, and they wouldn't email you if there wasn't a need. And so you've got to look at. But again, you're right with the business sense is that you've got to come up with the right strategy or balance, because you could be going crazy and keep looking at your phone or keep looking at your computer, and that
you'll never do anything else if you're gonna be chained to your inbox, just managing your inbox all day. There's a way more efficient way to do it. And if you go back to the original design of what the inbox was created for, I mean, it's replacing the box on the secretary's desk to drop stuff into, right? And then she sends it to wherever it needs to go. And I've got a really easy process, and indexing is so good now. Searching is so easy in email today.
Yeah.
That this new system, my system, works pretty well, at least for me, and I'll send it out for everybody else to look at too. Tim, I've had a blast talking with you. Congratulations on everything you did. I can't wait to see pictures of your new space.
I'll forward it to you, Ken. You got to read the email though, Ken.
I will read the email. Yes, absolutely. So, is there anything you would like to leave the audience with before we go?
No, it's just that business, any entrepreneur out there that's in business, really, I mean, you got to pat yourself on the back. There's a lot to deal with, especially today. And now, especially with today's market and the world and everything going on. So it's stop and review things. Don't jump into things. Really take your time, coordinate things. There's so many avenues. There's podcasts out now, like what Ken's doing, that you can learn from. There's different good networking organizations. The other business I run is an executive roundtable. We help executives because you're alone. You're alone as a business owner, and
Yes.
you need things to bounce people off of. So there's so many valuable things out there. You just got to find the right one with the right fit. And
Definitely.
but I think it's important. Build habits, build and create habits, relationships, networking. Before you jump into something, really strategize, ask somebody about it, bounce ideas off of people. Don't be afraid to do that.
Right. Hands down, so many people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about my ideas, or I'm afraid to go out and talk to people. Every business owner that I've met, and I've met thousands of them now, they're open to talk, right? We're in this boat together, and business owners make up 9.8% of America, and I think less than 1% of the planet, right, is people that own businesses. So you're right. Everybody that's went out there and tried it and done it, and if you're successful, or if you've taken a break and gone back to corporate America, you deserve a pat on the back. It's not easy, and you're doing it because you want to do it, and I would hate that anybody doesn't do it because they were afraid or they didn't think they had enough resources or knowledge to do it. So and that's
so true. So true.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ken. It's nice to be with you today.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.